हृदय अपने सेवकों के हे प्रभु, एक कर दे हृदय अपने सेवकों के हे प्रभु। निज महान उद्देश्य उन पर कर प्रकट मेरे विभु, एक कर दे हृदय अपने सेवकों के हे प्रभु।
Today is the first occasion I have come to Baha'i House, and therefore I feel particularly glad to see you all assembled here on an important occasion, and which is to commemorate the incarceration of 7 Baha'i leaders in Iran. And it's a great cause. And so I asked Zina and said I'll sign it here itself, the appeal. Anyone who stands for human rights, he would have no hesitation signing it. That for the success of democracy, the most imperative attribute is tolerance for a diametrically opposite point of view. And I said, study of history tells me that intolerance for a different point of view is greatest in the field of religion, where a person who subscribes to a form of faith is reluctant to accept any other form of faith. I hold that Baha'is being subjected to the kind of torture and persecution which made these people, 7 persons, prisoners of conscience in 2 jails, about which I do not know the details. I have only read it just now. And therefore, we are doing a great sacred duty by remembering them and urging the Iranian government to release them and not to harass them any further. I am happy to be associated with this function, and I am grateful to Mrs. Saurabh and all her colleagues who have invited me here today to be associated with it. Thank you very much.
The test of any nation which claims to be civilized and democratic is the treatment it accords to its minorities. That's the acid test. When I was rapporteur, UN Special Rapporteur for Nigeria, there was suppression of civil liberties, but at that time there was not the religious persecution, political, maybe ideological. But today, in this day and age, to find that people are imprisoned, the meted out ill treatment, inhuman treatment, just because they believe in a faith which is different from that of the official creed, is something really not only surprising, it's something which is frightening. I should have thought in this day and age, we might have been actually learned that there is more than one path to salvation. So long as the minorities do not indulge in any acts of violence or disturb law and order, they have every right to be treated as any other member of the family. When in the Indian Constitution we were debating during the draft, we have an article which gives freedom of religion, but it's forgotten. It says freedom of conscience. So even an agnostic, even an atheist has the protection of Article 25. Why? Because his beliefs are genuinely held, and that is, he also needs to be respected. And that's the tradition in India. If you see throughout, except on certain occasions, people have lived together, people have lived peacefully, and actually that's the only way to progress. Persecution of minorities leads to what? Ultimately, the lesson of history is, as far as I am known, that the forces of spirit will overcome the forces of the sword. I'm sure that will happen in Iran, and our hearts go out to the Baha'is who have been subjected to so many violations of human rights and in treatment, and pray the Almighty that the authorities at least have the good sense to release them.
My first association with the Baha'i directly took place under very difficult circumstances. I was conducting a mission for the UN, Commission on Human Rights, in Iran. I was actually the last special rapporteur that had been allowed to enter the country, which is a severe indictment of the Iranian government itself. And I met a group of elders, very distinguished gentlemen and ladies who I had to meet secretly because of the level of persecution in Iran. And they told me at great length about the types of persecution, including the confiscation of their properties and a range of other human rights violations. The situation in Iran has worsened, as we all know, for the Baha'is over the years. But yesterday, in a remarkable development, and I know that people, these kinds of struggles need a lot of patience, but we have a tremendous statement from 4 UN human rights bodies: the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Religion, the Special Rapporteur on the Independent Expert on Minority Rights, and another Special Rapporteur. And all of them unequivocally have spoken about the grave injustice that the 7 Baha'i leaders we are here to commemorate today. And they have all spoken about that these cases are characterized by the failures to safeguard fair trial standards, and it jeopardizes overall religious freedom in Iran. They have spoken, they have condemned the trials that were conducted because they did not meet fair trial standards under international human rights law. And they have talked about the existence of discriminatory laws and policies that restrict the Baha'i from forming religious institutions, entering universities, and gaining public sector employment. So every facet of life is controlled by the Iranian regime. They have also reminded Iran that the international human rights instruments it has ratified, including the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, it is violating. And according to the Covenant, any country that has ratified the instrument cannot distinguish between favored and unfavored groups as far as freedom of religion is concerned. The existence of religious identity is also protected by the UN Declaration on Minorities. I can go on and on about the range of human rights that have been violated, but without religious freedom itself is a cornerstone of democratic citizenship. And I think it is very important that all of us collectively urge the Indian government to put pressure. I understand there have been some discussions bilaterally, but I think the persecution has reached a level where we need to address the Prime Minister and others and say that they have to publicly condemn Iran for what the Iranian government and the religious prosecution of the Baha'i. And in that struggle, we are all with you. I continue to support the cause. I feel very deeply that we have become all very close friends, and I have learned a great deal personally from the manner in which Baha'i people live, from the values that they cherish, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much.
I will share the feelings of Chief Imam of India, Imam Maulana Umair Ilyasi. Let us work to develop a culture of harmony and integration in which there is a space for everybody and every opinion to prosper, flourish, and blossom. And any efforts to sabotage this course of human and civilized behavior have to be contested with one voice. And here I assure you of full support of All India Imam organization to which I head. As regards the persecution of Baha'is in Iran, there are claims and counterclaims, and in that case, taking one-sided position would not be appropriate. However, I would urge the government of Iran to address the genuine concern of Baha'is community living in Iran and provide them equal opportunities of growth and development.